So we want to talk about some of the best and worst things that happened in TV in 2015. But we're going to kick things off with something that Chris and I properly loved. And it's why we think The Jinx was the best drama of TV in 2015. Dale, did you watch The Jinx?
I haven't, no. So I'm going to be mostly listening at this point.
Okay. Well, hopefully, I think we can talk about it without actually spoiling stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Without actually spoiling the actual moments, I think.
Yep.
But if you don't know what it is anyway, so it's a 6-part documentary series done by HBO on the really strange real life of a real estate heir called Robert Durst, who's like this sort of like multi-billionaire family, right? Is that what they are?
Yeah.
They own a bunch of property and stuff in New York. And so a lot of strange things happened to him, like his wife disappeared.
Right.
He was charged with a strange murder and dismemberment of his neighbour, but managed to get off that.
Okay.
And there was a film made about him by a director called Andrew Jarecki, who did Capture the Freedmans.
Right, okay,
and,
I've seen that.
Yeah, so he made a film called All Good Things.
Yeah, All Good Things.
With Ryan Gosling in it. And after the film came out, Robert Durst, the guy who the film is based on, contacted the director and was like, would you like to do an interview with me? So they start doing this interview, and then from this interview, the sort of kernels of this series start. And like the first episode kind of introduces to him, and then after that, then it's sort of bolstered by this interview that the director is having with him, and you learn more about his life and things like start to unfold. And really, really strange things.
Keep it spoiler free because it sounds really interesting. I do want to check out.
Yeah, we can't go totally spoiler free though, I don't think, because people have watched it, and we did talk about it before. But it was interesting. The film kind of just basically said that he did it.
Yeah.
But because they were worried about legal implications, they changed the names. They didn't really change anything else. They literally left it the same story as what they believed happened. And he saw that, and rather than sue, he got in touch and said, and so you already start understanding that there's something very strange going on in this man's psyche.
Definitely.
And yeah, he's just a very chilling presence, isn't he, on screen?
But also as well, like I rewatched it recently, like 2 weekends ago, with my girlfriend who'd never seen it. And we watched the film came out this year called True Story, with James Franco and Jonah Hill, which is another like sort of real life thing. And she really enjoyed that. And I said, oh, have you seen The Jinx? She hadn't. So we watched it in a night, basically. And when you rewatch it, it's interesting, like, even though he's obviously a really, really strange man, there's something quite charismatic about him. I don't know, like, there's something so compelling about just watching him. And I think, for me, like, when you've got a TV year with people like, you know, Frank from House of Cards, like Hannibal, and things like that, you sort of have these, like, really strange, like, anti-heroes who you can't, even though you know they're bastards, you can't help but sort of find something super interesting about them. I think it's interesting to have, like, a real-life character like that. Like, when you're watching him talking, I have absolutely no idea what's going through his head.
No, not until the end when you start getting more of a sense of what's going through his head.
Well, I think like one of the reasons that I think it is one of the like best dramas of the year is like the way that it sort of drips feeds this information, and there's a lot of sort of criticism about the way the documentary, because it's a documentary, so it's kind of like, you know, are they making drama? Are they making TV? Are they you know, journalists? Should they be bound by sort of journalistic integrity? Because there's a lot of sort of criticism about them holding back information and things like that. And there was also a couple of things that happen, which I didn't notice till the second series when I watched it. But in the second series, it makes it really sort of obvious that this, like, one particular character who the police were going to go to, and you get the feeling that if the police spoke to her, it would all be unraveled for him and he would be in a lot of trouble. But as the police make it known to her that they're going to speak to her, she speaks to Robert Durst, the guy, and she ends up dead. Apparently that didn't happen.
Right.
Apparently the police never made it, that conversation with her never happened.
Okay, that's problematic then.
That is problematic. Apparently that's like one of the main things that they've sort of had a go about.
It's I guess the first I heard about this show was there was a bit of pre-hype really, because it was when everyone was going crazy for the podcast called
Serial.
So everyone was going crazy for Serial. You know, it was the biggest thing to happen to podcasting so far, and I was just reading on several sort of sites that HBO have got a TV version of this that they're going to, because everyone was like, well, how do you translate this to TV? Because this is huge numbers.
Yeah.
And so HBO already had this in development, you know, a very, very similar kind of thing. And again, you know, we did a chat about Serial at the time, and I said to you how uncomfortable I was about how entertaining I was finding it.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the Jinx. It's like I'm finding this really entertaining, like I'm watching a good thriller, and yet this is about real people who died, who were murdered, whose families are still around, who want justice, and it's something that's very unsettling. But I guess you know, I've read books about serial killers, and you know, we watch films about true crime and things like that, and it just seems when it's the real people talking, it really brings it home. Definitely. That I start questioning whether I should be enjoying this as much as I am.
Yeah, that is, I guess, problematic. I don't. Yeah,
but it doesn't mean I'm not going to stop watching it, and it doesn't mean that other people don't. But I think it brings it home more when you're face to face with the person rather than Kevin Spacey playing the person.
Yeah, I guess so. And I think with this, because it's as you say, because it's a documentary thing, and because they use a lot of like reenactments, like dramatic reenactments that are done like really well, like shot amazingly, and it looks beautiful as well. And then it keeps cutting back then to like, this is the thing that I found really unsettling about it, is like the real CCTV footage, the real court stuff, the real phone calls as well, and real bits of
how much of the show is real footage then, like real CCTV, real
quite images? A lot. I think they keep going back to like reenactments when people are talking about it and things like that.
Is it not jarring? Is it not like, do you feel like it's like, I mean, a show that we'll come talked about later, I'd imagine, is Narcos, and they do that thing every now and again where they dip into real stuff, and it always throws me off a little bit. It takes me out of the... This
doesn't feel like that. I think it's because it's used sparingly but in a really, really good way.
Right.
But there's also a couple of times when they cut to like real bits and you think that there's no way is that actual real, and they actually do, because they have some actual footage of them finding Morris Black, his neighbour, which he was found not guilty of murdering, but he did admit to cutting the body up.
Okay.
And they've actually got footage of them finding the body and things like that, and they're just like, they outline, oh yeah, this is where we found his leg, and stuff like that. But there's lots of amazing stuff that happened there that I just completely forgot as well. So he's arrested for the murder of his neighbour, and the way he's arrested is a place in Texas, and the best criminal defense lawyer, there's two, and he can't decide which one to hire, so he hires them both. Like, he spends like $1.8 million or something.
Where's the money coming from?
Well, he's like part of like a billionaire like family who own like a lot of property in New York, basically. So like, money's no object to them.
Yeah, he's bought his way out of a lot of things in the past.
Okay, really.
And yeah, I mean, and obviously, I mean, what makes the whole thing come together is the moment at the end, which we won't spoil, but that was the best moment of telly I saw this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it was just like, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, they must have just been pinching themselves, the filmmakers, like, I cannot believe we've got this.
Yeah. Well, this is another thing that they were criticised for, is there's a very, what Chris is talking about, this is like this really big moment where it completely unravels.
Right.
But they sat on that for like a year. But the filmmakers claimed that they actually didn't find it till really, really close to when they actually put it out.
Interesting. Yeah, well, that may or may not be true. Equally, it's not entirely their job to solve this crime. The police. Yeah. Where the hell have the police been all this time? You know, they're just doing the police's job for them.
Well, that's interesting, because the police have actually said, even because he's been arrested now for the murder of this friend.
Spoiler alert.
Afterwards, they run into him. But he was like found in a hotel with like guns and money in the boot of his car. Like, this guy's a really strange dude. But also, the police have said, no, there's nothing to do with the show that we arrested him. It's just like, we just have. But his brother, who's in the documentary, and didn't want anything to do with the part of it, he's actually said, I had a really good quote from him, which said, because he was still like tormenting his brother, like going to his house in Florida and stuff like that. Like, he did a lot of really, really strange stuff, and I think he was actually arrested in Florida in the end. But he said, I no longer am looking over my shoulder. I'm very grateful to the Jinx for having brought this about. His brother said, which is quite interesting. But I think like nothing for me came close to just that moment. There's a couple of moments, but like that, there's one moment in particular, and I think that is probably one of my favourite bits of telly this year. So you should definitely watch that. It's not on Sky Atlantic anymore, but I'm not sure where you can get it. It's all on Amazon, but you have to pay for it, like $1.89 an episode.
Yeah, is it worth that? I'd imagine. Sounds like it is. Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely going to check it out over Christmas, I think.